Good afternoon, or possibly morning, depending on where you're watching this episode from. Optimize Self Ninjas and Ninjettes. That was an awkward introduction. Apologize for that. Anyways, as always, this is your host, Justin Archer, aka the sensei of the Optimized Self show and dojo. For those of you tuning in for the first time and wondering what this show is all about and everything under the OptimizedSelf.ninja umbrella, well, like it says on the screen, the show is all about rediscovering your health, upgrading fitness, optimizing wellness, all while having fun, kicking ass through lifestyle design. And those two last words are key: lifestyle design. Unlike some other approaches, albeit good, that maybe use what I refer to as single factor focus kind of thinking and have the blinders on and focus just on exercise or just on diet or some other means of getting you better, we take into consideration everything that contributes to your health, health being accumulative, and keeping in mind that your body is a stimulus response organism and it responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So it's what you do the majority of the time that matters, not your best intentions. So no matter how well intended you may be in trying hard at exercise or exercising more or harder, it cannot compensate for a suboptimal lifestyle. And those are including things that I refer to, and we do so here on the show, as foundations of health. So things like breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, exercise, not to mention other things that are positively or negatively influencing those foundations of health, like your environment and mindset. So we take all those things into consideration, and then this is a place where we can kind of crowdsource our collective knowledge and experience to come up with solutions for people who write in questions and that I answer on the show. All right. Speaking of which, today we got some good stuff to look forward to. One is how to overcome a lack of motivation, willpower, and enthusiasm to make necessary changes while dealing with depression, anxiety, and overall poor mental health. Also, we're going to go over some quick tips on how to troubleshoot and fix clicking neck and stiff shoulders. And then if we have some time, we'll try to leave some for the end. I kind of want to share with you some insights, kind of my alternative motive. You can't see, but I was doing bunny quotations there, as well as a few other sites of mine. All right, so anyways, let me take this little intro off, wave hi to you, and let me put the lower third in there. I had it all queued up, but I guess the settings just didn't want to hold, so give me 1 second. My wife Anya promised me that later this week or over the weekend we will work on the lower third. In the meantime, that right there is just going to have to do. I think it's pretty good, seeing as how I just made it in like 10 seconds, right? So anyways, that's me, Justin Archer. You can call me Sensei, and you can find me over at OptimizedSelf.ninja. All right. So let's get into the first question or questions. And this is from Peter. And Peter took the Optimized Self test. So thank you very much, Peter, for doing so. I always appreciate when people do that because it gives me the information I need to better address whatever the questions or concerns are. All right. So Peter took the test, and if anyone's interested watching, you can do that by going to OptimizedSelf.ninja, and you'll see the logo at the top, a video player where you can see this show, depending if you're watching it on OptimizedSelf.ninja or on the Optimized Self Ninja YouTube channel. But under the video player, there'll be a button, and that big red orange button is what you would click. It'll say, I believe, click here to uncover what's holding you back. Go ahead and click there, and that's how you get access to a link to take the Optimized Self test. All right. And also, I almost forgot, sorry, Peter, we're going to get right to your question, is the Optimized Self show drinking game. So whenever I change topics or questions, so I can later add in timestamps so that you can conveniently find where it is I'm referencing something, I take a drink of water. And I think you should too. Helps with dehydration, keeps dehydration at bay. So cheers. All right. So now Peter. On to Peter's question that he asked in the Optimized Self test. But before we got to that, Peter, and as well as anyone who takes the, excuse the truck outside there, takes in the Optimized Self test, they range or gauge themselves on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how they're doing in the foundations of health. So the lowest, the foundation of health that Peter scored lowest on was stress, exercise, and mindset, which was a 1 out of 10, followed by sleep and nutrition, which he scored himself number 2. Then movement and environment, which was 3, and finally hydration, which was 4. Breathing, surprise enough, gave himself a 7. Usually some of those numbers are kind of skewed differently, almost on the opposite end for most people. So I definitely, Peter, assuming you're watching, I'll send you a link to this, would love to kind of hear more on that. And he made a point when I asked which foundation health did you score lowest on, he said mindset. I also always ask people, how do you know what you know? Meaning, what is your measuring stick? How are you determining how you're scoring yourself? And Peter actually gave a really good response to this, one that I haven't seen before. So I thought it bared sharing here on the show. And so I said, how do you know what you know? And he said, how do you know what you know? And put in quotations with a question mark. And that was a great question. And the way that I know what I know in terms of how, and yes, of course, I took my own test. The way that I know how to gauge myself on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best on any of the foundations of health, is because I have for a long time presently and will continue to test, measure, and track all 7 foundations of health, as well as environment and mindset. I also am very, not at all times perfect, I'm granted, but I try to be very self-aware. And my wife and I practice daily, weekly, monthly, and annual reviews. We do this not just in terms of health, fitness, and wellness, but also finances and goals, things like that. And that's something that I recommend everybody do, especially the test, measure, and track, because it's kind of like aiming a gun just wildly. If you don't have any target, you don't know what you're shooting for, and usually what gets tested or what gets measured gets managed and most likely improves. So I think that's important. A lot of the apps that I use can be found over in the Kick Butt list of self-optimization apps. This is something that I include as a part of membership to the Optimized Self Dojo, which, Peter, if you're interested in, I will speak towards later on. But I use those. Those are things that, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known about years, now over a decade ago, that would have saved me a lot of time, money, and effort in the past if I would have known what I know now, but of course I didn't. So those things I definitely recommend people to do. With technology, it's becoming simpler and simpler and more affordable to test, measure, and track certain biomarkers, vitals, and things like that. So you know if any change you make to your lifestyle, if it's moving you closer towards your goal or further away from your goal. So those are all things that I recommend. Use the tools that you have at your disposal. At your disposal. Is that a word? You know what I'm trying to say. That's available to you. There we go. And then look at picking up some new ones. And I go deeper and wider into this inside the Optimized Self Dojo and inside the Optimized Self Arsenal that's inside of there. Let's see. Also, blood tests, process and elimination, and then really probably most is 13 plus years of experience, during which I've spent, gosh, tens of thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of hours working with thousands of people, helping them rediscover their health, upgrade their fitness, optimize their wellness, basically so that they can enjoy leading a pain-free and active life without limitations and become their optimized self. So that's how I know what I know. And granted, it is changing. I always tell people, and I think this is kind of a weak part in the medical community, but also the alternative health, is a lot of people will find something that they go, oh, I know this thing, and they'll hold on to it even if new science proves them wrong. I really only care about results, getting results for you, getting results for myself, my friends, my family. I don't really care so much about being right. I always tell people, if you're trying to figure out something health-wise, and a lot of people say, oh, I've tried everything, and yeah, I know this, and you're really sticking to your guns about something you have opinion about or that you believe to be true. Well, that's always a scenario where you want to be wrong. You never want to try everything and think you know everything and still not be able to get the results you want, because basically what that means then is you are screwed. Okay, this is a wonderful time to be wrong, and I love it when I find that I'm wrong or other people are wrong, because that actually then goes from a closed mindset to an open mindset, and then we can ask questions, and then we can go deep, wide, everywhere, and start to explore alternative ways of achieving whatever it is you want to achieve. So I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah, that's basically how I know what I know. Let's see. Also on the test, I always ask, is there anything else that in this case Peter or anyone else feels, thinks, believes is contributing to holding them back? And Peter says motivation, willpower, and lack of enthusiasm for anything. Also says the biggest problem or issue that he struggles with or has in the past is poor mental health, depression, anxiety, etc. And wants to know what is the quickest way to feel better. So granted, this is a pretty broad general question. And this is, Peter, just knowing what I know and a small bit of communication you and I have had via the test, this is something I would love to speak with you one-on-one, whether it was inside the dojo. I do offer individual sessions and everything. And I'm going to get to this later on why I would recommend that, but not as a first thing. It's just because, again, it's very broad, and I like my answers to be contextual, and at least the test allows us to do that. So knowing what I know for the test, here is what I would recommend for Peter to do, or anyone else who thinks that they're in the same boat or a similar boat as Peter, okay? So number one is go back to the episode right before this, episode 15. It's titled Optimizing Your Life or Lifestyle Through Environment and Mindset. You can watch the whole episode if you want, but especially the part that starts at 3 minutes, 30 seconds in. There's a timestamp on there that you can click, and it should jump right to it, or you can just fast forward to 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And I go a lot into environment and mindset, two things that I think are key for succeeding in any of the foundations of health, but especially things like stress and dealing with depression, anxiety, lack of willpower, motivation, those types of things. So I would definitely recommend that. Second, and these are kind of in order of based on how you scored yourself in the foundations of health, okay? So watch that. But after that, try to eliminate stressful people and things from your life. If there's some relationship that you're not benefiting from, really it's just taking away from you or causing you distress, which is different than eustress. Eustress is the good stress, distress is the bad stress. Then really, and I know sometimes people feel bad about doing this, but you've got to get those people or get those things out of your life. And kind of on a similar note is stop doing things you hate. Okay, for the love of God, please, please stop. And I know anybody watching, I may get some comments like, well, you can't just stop. Like, what if I have a job and I have bills to pay? And I totally get that, been there, done that myself. But in terms of, maybe you just look at it from a different angle, meaning that, okay, yeah, I have to go do this job that maybe I hate, or do these things that I hate, but what's the purpose? What is the why behind it? And speaking on that is, if you don't know your why, and it could be spiritual if you're religious, or just belief in yourself, like why am I here? What do you like? And if you don't know why, think of like, what do you like doing? If you were to today, if I snap my fingers and you had $1 billion, besides, you know, have fun and party and stuff like that, you had no financial worries in your life, what would you do? You know, and that's probably close to your why. And so I'd figure out what your why is, why you think your purpose is, why it is you do everything you do, even maybe a job that maybe you don't like, something that you hate doing, like I made reference to earlier. And then make sure that everything you do is in service to that. And when you do that, then a job or a task or something that you dislike or hate that is causing you stress, you can quickly turn it from something that causes you distress that you hate to something that it's a path. It's a way to something else that you enjoy or like, all right? Now, I'm assuming, Peter, I don't know your life story or anyone else listening, that you're in that situation. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're financially well enough off that you can say, yeah, I'm just going to quit this and do what I love. That would be awesome. Unfortunately, not everybody is usually able to do that, so I'm speaking towards the majority of watchers and viewers, not the minority. But yeah, there's with technology and the ability to reach out and network with people, I truly believe that in 2015, heck, even years ago, decades ago, but there's no reason to be doing something that you hate. And I think that is a big contributor, if not the biggest contributor to people being unhappy, unfulfilled, is because so much of what we do with our, if you want to call it jobs, careers, businesses, we spend the majority of time doing that. We have family time and, you know, we have relaxing time and everything, but the bulk of most people's day is, you know, doing a job of some sort, all right? And so seeing as how, remember, the body is a stimulus response organism and responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice, so it's what you do the majority of the time that matters, not your best intentions. I think I've said it a few times. Keeping that in mind, if you're working, and again, work could be a job, it could be a business, a career, doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do the majority of the time is going to have the biggest impact on your overall health, your happiness, how you feel, mental, emotional state, all of that. So make sure you're doing something that you love doing, all right? What else? I would suggest using HRV, stands for heart rate variability training, to test, measure, and track your stress response to things. Obviously, there'll be some things that, you know, oh, I hate that person. Maybe hate's a strong word, but maybe it isn't. Maybe that person caused you a lot of stress and you know that stresses you out. Most people, a kid kicking on the back of your seat during a flight, you know that stresses you off. But there may be things that you think, that doesn't really bother me, or it bothers me but short term. And now with simple things like on your phone and everything, you can actually do heart rate variability training, which is the testing of time in between heartbeats, which the higher the number, the better your ability to handle stress. It can measure that, and you can actually track yourself over a day, and you may see something like, oh, a slow web page is loading slowly, will aggravate me, but look, it has a tail effect for the next half hour. And then you can actually, there are exercises you can do, and I go much deeper into this in the Optimizing Your Stress module inside the Optimized Self Arsenal, which is inside the Optimized Self Dojo. Hopefully you figured, follow that. But you can use that to figure out what's stressing you out, the type of effect it's having on you, and then you can actually train your stress response. Yes, you can literally turn on or off, or like a dimmer switch, turn up and down your flight or fight response. Because yeah, if you're wasting, you know, someone cuts you off and if it is endangering your life, then yeah, you would get upset and angry quickly. But then if you hold on to that, that's a lot of wasted energy, mentally, emotionally, physically, that you're putting towards that you could be put towards something else positive, okay? But I always tell people, if you want to change something, you first have to become aware of it. So very few people in the world are actually aware of how their body works and how it responds to things throughout the day. They go, okay, what do I change? And it's like, well, what do you have to know where you're starting from and then know where you want to go, right? It's like, if it's on a map, it's like, where are we going? Oh, I don't know. Where are we starting? Where are we now? I don't know. Then how are you supposed to determine which path you're supposed to take, right? So heart rate variability training, check that out. Let's see. Keep a gratitude journal. There's been tons and tons of studies. I mean, you can quick Google search, turn this up, that practicing gratitude on a daily basis, writing it down, expressing it to others, acknowledging others for what you appreciate in them. Gratitude is kind of the precursor to happiness. And so I would definitely recommend doing that. It could be as simple as, hey, every morning after I wake up, the second your feet hit the bed, you can keep a little gratitude journal next to your bed and write down the 3 things that you're grateful for. First 3 things. They don't have to be big too. Now, granted, I'm a little biased. I would recommend you use the Optimized Self journal, which includes partly a gratitude journal in there. It's more than that. And you can check out all about that over at OptimizedSelf.ninja. It's included in the membership to the Optimized Self Dojo. But again, you know, if you just want to start off with simple 1, 2, 3, you know, for each day and write that down. You can even do it twice a day if you want, but at least once a day, you know, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. It could be something as simple as the sun rising, or the breath in your lungs, or, you know, the people you're grateful for, anything like that. Okay. Let's see. I would also recommend I think probably the simplest and quickest way to change, to have control over stress, depression, anxiety, things like that, is through your breath, okay? Especially stress and anxiety, is you can actually, like on a dimmer board or dimmer switch, you can turn up or down your central nervous system. You could you can heighten it, or you can calm it. And so if you practice conscious diaphragmatic breathing, and that is basically down here, and you want to go east to west. So you can see there how my hands expanded outwards, not so your belly's going this way so much. It may a little bit, that's okay. But think about east to west, like so. Practice doing that for a total of, I would say, 15 minutes per day. You can do it all at once, but usually for people that's pretty difficult to focus on that. So the first time I'd say maybe just 5 minutes. And see if you can do 5 minutes, you know, kind of beginning of the day, midday, and end day, almost like a breakfast, lunch, dinner type of thing. And what'll help trigger your diaphragm is breathe only in and out through your nose, okay? And think about a 1-to-2 ratio. So figure out what works for you breath-wise. You shouldn't be out of breath or anything. But for example, 3-second inhale, 6-second exhale. And that ratio will help actually calm your central nervous system and relax you, okay? So also too, if you wanted to tune up your central nervous system, you wanted to get motivated, amped to do something, you can actually do really quick breathing. So let me show you the kind of calm breathing. So it would be like, that was a weird counting of 6. So 3-second inhale, 6-second exhale. If you wanted to kind of heighten your mental and therefore also emotional state, you want to get motivated, amped up. Maybe you are on the way driving home from somewhere and you find yourself dozing off. You know, you probably should pull over. But something else you can do to kind of help wake you up and everything, and this is good too if you're feeling down, a little depressed, is do some quick breathing in and out through the nose. So keep your mouth closed and forcefully try to, even for 10 seconds, how many breaths you can do in and out, okay? So this is gonna be kind of silly, so excuse me, but I'll try it. So you go. Now, you can even see a little color to my face. My abdominals were working there. But yeah, that will definitely bring you a rush of energy and everything. So you can actually change your energy levels, again, through your central nervous system by controlling your breath, okay? So give that a try. Let's see. In terms of movement, exercise, you know, I don't know enough to prescribe, you know, an exact detailed exercise routine. And I think at this point, I don't even think that's important. I would say try to move in fun, active, and youthful ways to improve your posture, your function, and overall mood. So what I mean in fun, active ways, you know, think of how you moved when you were a kid. a toddler. You can lay on the ground on your stomach. You can do head nods. You can do some rocking back and forth. You can do some crawling. Do on your hands and knees. Then maybe a bear crawl. Then a leopard. You can do crab walks. Move like an animal. Kind of make believe and have fun. And not only is this a great workout, and not only will it take your joints and muscles and everything through a full, or if not almost full, if not full range of motion. But I've seen time and time again, if you want to move and function like a younger person and you want to feel younger and more enthusiastic, then you have to act that. A lot of times emotions follow actions. You've probably heard this said before, like, oh, if you want to be happy, then act happy, even if you're not, and your emotions will follow. Well, that's definitely true. It is much easier to act your way into feeling something than to feel your way into acting somehow. Okay. Let's see. Okay, in terms of sleep and everything, I would say, well, not just, sleep as well as other things, but stop watching and reading the news if you are. It's terrible. I haven't watched the news in more. Yeah, probably a decade or so. All the big news you'll still hear about, you can find online, but just don't watch it. There's been tons of studies that show when people stop watching news, their happiness levels go up. Actually testing, certain feel-good hormones and everything. So stop watching or reading the news. All the major important stuff worldwide, you're going to know about either through the headlines or other people talking about it. Don't worry, you're not going to miss out on anything. On that same note, turn off all screens 1 to 2 hours before going to bed, because the blue light emitted from the screens, whether it be a mobile screen, computer screen, TV, will actually interfere with melatonin secretion. It'll mess up your circadian rhythm. So you want to have screens off 1 to 2 hours before. Try to sleep in a completely dark room, ideally with a temperature between 66 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And you want to sleep in a good position because you're probably sleeping 6, 7, 8, 9 hours possibly. Again, remember, it's what you do the majority of the time that matters, not your best intentions. So sleep in a good position, ideally on your back, 0 to 1 pillows, under your head, 1 to 2 pillows under your knees or lower legs, and that will help kind of put you in a very neutral position, unload any load, unloading load or weight bearing on your lower back, put your pelvis in a neutral position. It's very cradling, almost like a hammock, sleeping like that. So try that. As far as nutrition, eliminate all what I refer to as kryptonite foods. And by kryptonite foods, I mean foods that cause systemic inflammation in your body. Now, how would you know this? And this is why I always ask people, how do you know what you know? Because when it comes to nutrition, I ask people, how's your diet? And diet being different than nutrition. Diet is just your nutrition habits. What do you regularly eat? A diet is neither good or bad. It's just habitual, really. It's an adjective. So, and I'll ask people, how's your diet? And they say, oh, it's clean, or healthy, which I always kind of laugh at because clean, I figure, oh, cool, you're not eating off the ground anymore. Congrats. Or at least you wash it off before you eat it. And then healthy, well, healthy is really relative. What's healthy for me isn't necessarily healthy for you, isn't healthy for your parents. And there are certain guidelines and principles that we can follow. And inside the Optimize Your Nutrition module, which is inside the Optimize Arsenal, which is housed inside the Optimize, my little house here, inside the Optimizing Yourself dojo, I go much deeper and wider into how to go about this. But you can do things like an elimination diet, which is probably the simplest and definitely cheapest way of going about it. So you can also partner with that using the Coca Pulse test, which you can do manually, or they have apps for it now. And then if you've got, they usually range between $300–400 depending on where you get it done. You can do a blood test, something like Leap MRT, which will actually take your blood and then compare it to, depending on the quality of the test, 200, 300, 400 foods. And they'll give you results back and say, oh, you're severely sensitive to these foods, moderately sensitive to these, not sensitive to these at all. And again, that's going to vary due to epigenetics, due to where your family, your history from, right, your ancestors, things like that. And unfortunately, unless you do this, unless you're aware of that, you could be eating foods, for example, like eggs or peanuts, which most people say, hey, I'm eating healthy, and then find out that, oh, that thing is actually harming me. It's holding me back from achieving whatever I want to achieve. So that's really, really important. Is make sure you're not poisoning yourself, basically, and make sure as you're trying to improve in any of the foundations of health, right? You're trying to accelerate your health, your fitness, your wellness, your mental health. Make sure that your foot is not on the brake of any of the other foundations of health. Okay, just like driving, you can't, it doesn't work really well if you accelerate and have the foot down on the brake at the other time. Except in with health and fitness, you might have accelerating one or two areas, maybe exercise and diet, and then have your foot applied to 5 different brakes, those brakes being your foundations of health, okay? So something important to keep in mind. Let's see, as you do this, as you try to improve your sleep, as you try to eliminate certain kryptonite foods, you want to make sure, as you try to make any of these lifestyle changes, you want to configure, edit, set up, however you want to put it, your environment to be as conducive to your success as possible. So a simple example of this is, okay, I want to start the habit of doing a gratitude journal every morning. So you want to have that right on the bedside table and have the habit. After my feet touch the ground, comma, because that's something that happens every morning, right? I don't think you handstand out of bed and go anything. So after my feet touch the ground, comma, I will, and then fill in the blank there. And that fill in the blank could be fill out my gratitude journal. And you can even have 1, 2, 3 already written down the night before, and you can have it ready to go. So that would be basically configuring your environment, putting the gratitude journal right by your bed so it's easy to get to. It's far less likely that you're going to be successful with that habit change if the gratitude journal is in the other room under the couch. I mean, obviously you probably wouldn't do that, but I'm going on the extreme other side of things. Something else is if you're trying to eliminate a certain food, you go through an elimination diet and you find out that you're very sensitive to eggs, for example. They cause inflammation in your body, and they cause you mental fatigue, and therefore stress and depression and anxiety. And you go, oh, it's so hard though, I really like eggs. Well, if you have eggs or products, food items with eggs in it in the house, you're much more likely to consume eggs. But if there is no products, if there are no eggs and are there no products with eggs in the house, sure, you can go to the store and buy it and come back and eat it and everything, but it's not as convenient, so you're far less likely to do so. So again, configure your environment to help move you closer towards your goal, to be supportive of it, okay? As far as hydration, drink half your body weight in ounces of water per day. That's huge. You talk about mental health. For every 5% you're dehydrated, you're roughly 30% down on cognitive performance. So that's why, actually, as we wrap up here, I got 1 or 2 more things to say. I'm going to drink some water and recommend Peter and anyone else watching to do so as well. And half your body weight in ounces of water, if you haven't done that for a while or ever, it may sound like a lot. For an average person, it's usually about 2 gulps of water every 30 minutes, which really isn't bad. I'm not suggesting you drink this all at one time. That would be a lot of water at once. But usually 2 gulps every half an hour works out to be roughly half body weight ounces, unless you're very, very underweight or very overweight, okay? Let's see. And yeah, I think that covers as far as tips. Now something, and this is where I'm going to, Peter, ask of you, and I will ask of anyone else watching. If you're not a part of the Optimized Self Dojo, I definitely will ask that you join. I'm not going to beat around the bush and be like, well, maybe if. No, I think you would value, you would get a lot of results and benefit immensely from being a part of the Optimized Self Dojo. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later. But the reason being is the Optimized Self Dojo, the way that it's set up, it has built-in accountability and support. It's actually kind of an accountability support. You can also refer to it as a mastermind group, as well as inside the dojo. And it's basically a private Facebook group. And inside there's a link to what I refer to as the Optimized Self Arsenal, which is a curation of various tools, guides, and resources that I use with my one-on-one clients. I also have some clients that keep me on as retainer. So it's the most important things, the things that yield the most results, put together in the simplest way possible. But it is a live document, so I can always edit it to better service you and others. So it's all that put together on a shared doc, so I can always make changes and edit it. So there's various tools, guides, and resources. That's what I refer to as the Optimize Self Arsenal. And yeah, I would definitely recommend, Peter, you join. You can get in right now, I think, for only like $16, $17. Each membership is $1 more. So you can get in for, yeah, really, really cheap now. I mean, just in the first year, you're going to get $3,650 worth of value. Oh, we also do every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we do live trainings. So if you want to, you can even come on the live training with me. You don't have to actually come to my place of residence. We can do it online, and we can, put our heads together and solve your problem right there online, and we can, get other people's opinion, things like that. So it's built to be that community, and I truly do believe that you are the sum average of what you read, what you watch, what you listen to, the people you surround yourself with. So I think it's important to choose your peer group and the group, any group that you're around with. That's why I spoke about earlier. Stress, if there's someone or something causing you distress. Again, if there's someone causing you stress, that's challenge you to become better, wink, wink, keep them around. If it's someone who's causing you distress, and if I am, sorry, you can eliminate me too. That's not weird to say. Then yeah, eliminate those people from your life. But yeah, that's why I put together the Optimize Self Dojo. Is I definitely believe that there's a lot of great things in self-care. There is also, although some people may poo-poo all over this, there's some great things in healthcare. And when you bring self-care and healthcare together, which I believe they should, you get community care, which is otherwise known as welfare. And that's, I think, one of the biggest missing things going on right now in health is people looking out for one another, other than just complaining about how healthcare did them wrong, and or just looking out for themselves. So yeah, definitely, Peter, please join the Optimize Self Dojo. And you can find out everything included inside over at OptimizedSelf.ninja. If you have any questions for me in terms of follow-up, please don't hesitate to ask. And last but certainly not least, Peter, I threw a lot at you, and I totally, you might be going, oh my gosh, like, where do I start? You just start, really, But again, this is why I recommend people join the Optimize Self Dojo, because I know myself, many others, I think everybody, when you're learning something new, especially lifestyle changes, you need to hear it multiple times. Repetition is a good thing. That's how we learn. And I think total immersion in something, if you wanted to swim, you'd have to get in a pool. It doesn't matter how many books you read about it. You can put a toe in the water, but until you fully immerse yourself in the water, you're never going to be able to apply what you learn, and you're never going to find out, if what you know or what you read is applicable, and if it works, and grow, basically. So yeah, I would, again, I'm repeating myself, but total immersion is important. And just keep in mind that, said this before, say it again, your body is a stimulus response organism, and it responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So it's what you do the majority of the time that matters, not your best intentions. So exercise, great. Diet, great. Meditation, great. And you could do any one of those things. But I think to put the onus, the responsibility of your health and well-being on any one of those things is unfair to that one thing. You're more than just exercise. You're more than just diet. You're more than just meditation. You're a combination. We all are, of all those things. And it's important to remember that the body works together as a unit. And so you owe it to your body and yourself to treat it as such. All right. So Peter, hopefully that answers all your questions. I know that was a bit. And now we're going to move on to the next question. Before we do that, I got to take some water because my mouth is dry. And switch up my position. All right. So this is a shorter one because this was not sent in from the Optimized Self test. This is from Sam. And Sam from YouTube says, I believe Sam wrote me on my account from the Posture Guy, which for those of you that know is a site I used to run. Actually, it's still up. You can go to postureguy.com. That's what I was doing before OptimizedSelf.ninja. OptimizedSelf.ninja is kind of the predecessor to the postureguy.com, I guess. And Sam says, hi, Justin. I've been watching a lot of your videos. They seem really helpful. Thank you, Sam. I just thought I'd ask you kindly for some advice. My neck has been clicking for the last year and has started to click more. For example, every time I look to the left, it clicks. I'm pretty stiff around my shoulder area. I would assume some stress might have helped cause it, but what's your advice to get rid of this clicking? Thanks in advance, Sam. Sam, thank you for writing in your comment question. So before I make some recommendations, I think it's important to point out the differences in approach that I was taking back then versus now. And I'll say there was the Posture Guy approach, which is when I was doing the postureguy.com. Again, if anyone watching wants to check it out, they can go to the postureguy.com. It's been up, I just haven't added to it in a long time, but there's great information there. And basically the site was about how to use postural corrective exercises to get out of chronic pain. And that's because for the 7.5 of the previous years, I was a postural alignment therapist working in San Diego. And when I left, my wife and I started traveling. We've been traveling indefinitely. I was able to take off what I refer to as the single factor focus blinders of just looking at posture and start to recognize and kind of actually relearn, because there were certain things I knew and then I relearned, and then some new things I learned, and started pulling in other things than just the physical. And postural alignment therapy is great because it does take into consideration, hey, if your neck hurts, not just looking at the neck and shoulders, it may look at the hips and the knees and the ankles and physically tie the body together and take into consideration that it works as a unit. But what it left out, what it was lacking, was, hey, okay, yeah, your shoulders may be out of alignment, your neck may be out of alignment. Here's some exercise you can do to correct it, and maybe that takes half an hour. But what do you do in the 23.5 other hours of the day that's contributing to this? Is it a postural corrective? Is it an exercise problem, or is it a lifestyle problem? And after looking back and kind of reviewing 13 plus years of experience and seeing what the common denominator was between those people that succeeded and those people that failed with postural alignment therapy, was that those that failed, I think, simply try to fix the problem with exercise alone, the single factor focus blinders on. And those that succeeded said, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do these exercises, but I know, in order to make change, I have to make changes. I have to, yes, I'll do these exercises, but I'm gonna do these other things because that's the majority, that's my lifestyle, okay? And so that's what I refer to now as kind of the optimized self-ninja approach. It's more of a multi-pronged, diversified approach, okay? So, Sam, what I would recommend, first in terms of kind of the Posture Guy approach, maybe some immediate, let's call it first aid type of stuff to at least lessen the pain. I would recommend you check out, if you haven't already done so, a post I did over on the Posture Guy called What Causes Stiff Neck and Neck Pain, and I'll link to it in the show notes below. And if you're watching this on OptimizedSelf.ninja, just click on the title up on the top, and it'll take you to the YouTube page. And in the show notes, the YouTube description, you'll see mention links, and there'll be this. So the title is What Causes Stiff Neck and Neck Pain. The other one I would recommend is How to Tame Your Tight Traps, right? That's that kind of space between your shoulders and your neck, which you said, is definitely probably, stiff and tight, and that could be contributing to it. And I definitely think you're on the right track there. So also take a look at that. Again, the link to that will be included in the show notes. And like I said, keep in mind that no amount or quality of exercise can compensate for the environment and lifestyle that caused the problem in the first place. So for example, take a look at those 2 video posts that I did and use what's inside by all means. But you talked about, where's the question here? About stress being a contributor, and I definitely would agree with you. It is. And a lot of people, when they're stressed out, they say, oh, I hold my stress in these areas. And one of the common areas is in the neck and the shoulders. Well, why is that? Why is that such a common area? Well, it's because people have overlooked, ignored, or simply not addressed, or maybe didn't even know that their breathing or lack of breathing is causing to stress in that area. So let me explain it. And I'm just going to use breathing as one example as terms of foundations of health. And if you don't address them, how the exercises can only do so much. But we can do examples for all the foundations of health. But breathing, okay, the average human takes 22 to 30,000 breaths per day. Now, where is that breath supposed to come from? Most people, if you look around, it's happening in the chest and shoulders. Now, that would be fine if you were sprinting away from like a tiger or something. Those are auxiliary, they're secondary breathing muscles, so that when you're huffing and puffing and you're maybe run the bases of a baseball game, or like, cavemen running from something dangerous, those would kick in, right, to expand your chest cavity and get more air in. But when you're sitting around talking with your friends, working, assuming you don't have a manual labor job, maybe like a desk job or something, you should be breathing the majority of the day with the diaphragm. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier on in terms of diaphragmatic breathing, but it should be down here, and it should be, let me kind of face this way, east to west. So your side should expand laterally, just like if you had a balloon and you blew into it and you had your hands on it, I would push your hands out. That's how your diaphragm should be working. And you go, okay, but that's great. Okay, good. What does that have to do with my neck and shoulders? Well, if you're not breathing down there, where do you think you're breathing? Up here, right? And imagine that's 22 to 30,000 times. So you're not getting it here. And so that's less blood and less oxygen supplied to your whole body. So that's going to cause stiffness and everything. But also the compensating breathing mechanics that have to happen up here means you're doing 22 to 30,000 tiny shoulder shrugs each day. Well, yeah. And even though they're just the weight of your shoulders and your arms, that's still an awful lot. And that's contributing to the stiffness and tightness here, which is going to pull your neck basically out of alignment and then cause it to click when you look to the left, okay? So that's one way where you can feed a lot of slack to your shoulders and neck area is simply by restoring proper breathing mechanics. And I actually have a whole module inside the Optimized Self Dojo that I go into on this subject. And if you're interested, Sam, if you watched before when I was talking to Peter, I mentioned about that. And so I won't go all into it again, but if you want, you can rewind a bit and take a look at that where I tell about that, or towards the end, I'll probably speak about it a little bit more. But if you wanted to find out about what's inside the Optimized Self Dojo and how it could benefit you and everything that's included and all that inside the membership, head on over to OptimizedSelf.ninja and take a look-see. Basically, when you get to the page, there'll be the logo. Actually, I'll probably send you the link to this, so you'll be watching it there. And then you can also watch it over on YouTube. But on the page, there'll be the logo, there'll be the video player where this will be playing. Then there's a button that you can take the Optimized Self test. That, if you're interested, take that, and that will actually give me more information. So as a follow-up question, I think it'll help as you go through the form, help you kind of come up with better quality questions, more precise to what specifically is going on with you. And it'll help me, give me the information I need to give you a more precise question for your unique situation. So definitely check that out. And then under that, if you keep scrolling, is a description, kind of an overview of everything included inside the Optimized Self Dojo. Well, there's a lot of things actually in there that you would benefit from. but especially optimizing your breathing module that I just made reference to, you would benefit from. There is some exercise routines included for neck pain, but you can also check out those two video posts I mentioned too, the what causes stiff neck and neck pain and how to tame your tight traps. Okay, so please follow up with me on that. Join the dojo if that looks interesting to you. Again, you can learn all about it over at OptimizedSelf.ninja. But at the very least, please take the Optimize Self test, that big orange, red-orange button underneath the video player, so that way I can get a little bit more information on you. Basically, you can help me help you more, all right? And then I can answer some more questions in an upcoming episode of the Optimize Self Show, all right? So thank you, Sam, for sending that in. All right, let's see. Okay, one more topic today. Grab some water, cheers. Okay, so this, excuse me if I'm kind of all over the place with this one. All I put down as a note was my alternative motive, my alternative motive and belief rant. And the reason I wanted to go on this was the previous episode we had a lot of questions, caught up on a lot of them. This one had a lot of follow-up questions. Most of them could be responded to through text. But I wanted to talk about something that I'd previously talked about over on the posturguy.com, and I kind of realized I haven't yet addressed it here on OptimizedSelf.ninja. All right, and there's a couple of things. One of them is, like I said, my alternative motive, and a lot of people have written in, send me comments, emails, things like that, saying they like the show. They appreciate it. A lot of them have gone on to join the Optimize Self Dojo. I got a message the other day from an actual postural alignment therapist, and she was asking, kind of like, what's your business model? How do you work? Do you do one-on-one sessions? Is it sustainable and everything? And so I just want to give you an insight into kind of how the business works, because another goal of mine, I always want to be transparent with people. I mean, heck, if you wanted to, I know most people don't care about this, but I'm willing to be like, hey, here's literally where all the money goes that anybody gives me. I'm totally happy to share that with people. And actually, I did this over on the Posture Guy, so I'll link to that in the show notes below. The title of the post was, "Where's my money, man?" And then it said, "I'm declaring bankruptcy, ... So you can check that out. It's in the show notes below. So yeah, this other person in what I refer to as the Making Bodies Better world, I can actually probably call this episode the quotation bunny because I've done it so much today. But she wanted to know, how's the business run? And, I started to explain to her, and I'll definitely send her a link to this video, is the OptimizedSelf.ninja, the business model that I'm doing with it is completely different than anything I've ever done before. 13 plus years in the health, fitness, wellness, making bodies better world, whatever you want to call it. I've had jobs, I've done, consulting. I've worked in clinical settings. I've done one-on-one sessions in person. I've done one-on-one sessions online. Late last year, I started to offer retainers where people can keep me on, basically have unlimited access to me, with the exception of when I'm sleeping, of course. And for a certain fee, they keep me on for a month, a quarter, half year. And the reason I decided to do the Optimize Self Dojo is because my goal, my why, and I spoke to this a little bit, Peter, hopefully you're still watching, about finding out your why. Well, my why, my purpose, I believe, is to help as many people as possible become the best version of themselves possible, and more precisely through health, fitness, and wellness. And for that, to be able to help as many people as possible, I came to a realization that the bottleneck there was me. I can't work with everybody one-on-one as much as I love to. And I love working with people one-on-one. I love the interaction. I love the dialogue. I love doing it in person. I did that for 7, 8 years. I did it actually more before as a personal trainer, before I was a postural alignment therapist. And I love doing it now via Skype or Google Hangouts. But again, the bottleneck there is there's only one of me, and I can only spend so much time with each person. So I still do offer one-on-one sessions and retainers. I offer basically 4 individual sessions. I have limited them this year because my focus is on the dojo. I do offer 4 individual sessions a month, and I offer for the year of 2015, 12 monthly, 4 quarterly, 2 bi-annually or 6 months, whatever you want to call it, and 1 annual retainer. So far more limited to what I did last year, or definitely the year before, as that was my main source of income. And again, I love working with people one-on-one, but the reason being is because I want to put as much time and attention into the dojo, because what I realized with my one-on-one type clients is having a lot of the same conversations again and again and again. And I thought, well, a lot of this could be automated. A video could be done with this, a guide could be made this way. And I didn't want to fully create courses. I actually went through that, thought that's what I wanted to do. But I said, I still want to interact with people, but instead of one-on-one, how about one-on-many? And that's why I created the Optimize Self Show. And inside the Optimize Self Dojo, we do live trainings every Saturday. And so really the goal is to share with the members of the Optimize Self Dojo is, one, give them access to the Optimize Self Arsenal, which is basically, like I said, a curation of various tools, guides, and resources that I share with my one-on-one clients that I use myself. I also recommend to my friends and family, those that I love and care for, care about, and care for. And I want to share that with you guys, as well as create an accountability / support / mastermind group where we can crowdsource knowledge and experience to help one another. So actually, when you join the Optimize Self Dojo, when you get access, one of the first things when you get in, there's a pinned post at the top. It's basically a private Facebook group. And it says there's some starting things, and it says, hey, welcome. If you haven't already, take the Optimize Self test. But then right after that, it says, say hi, introduce yourself. If you've been here for a while, if you see someone else new, say hi to them. Share the things that you're struggling with. I'm there in the group too, but I love it when I see other people chime in and say, hey, you should go take a look at this inside the Optimize Self Dojo. Or Justin talked about that thing you're asking about over here. They point them in the right direction. Or, oh yeah, I had that once before too. Or I struggled with this, or I'm trying to do that. Have you seen this? And they point them in the right direction. And I think that's great. I would say time is the most valuable resource any of us have. And, we all have jobs and careers and stuff. And I completely understand that most people don't have the flexibility or the luxury to study all this stuff the majority of the day like I do. So if we can, again, crowdsource each other's time and knowledge and experience in one area where we're helping one another, again, that's kind of the point of the Optimize Self Dojo. So if I haven't been already, let me be abundantly clear. I love doing the show. I love giving free advice. But I definitely want people to join the Optimize Self Dojo, which is a paid membership. Now, right now, it's just a one-time payment. Later on, it is going to be a subscription, okay? And right now, it's only $1 more per membership. So I think right now you can get started for, I think it's $16 or $17. Now, when that one's bought, it's going to go up $1. So it'll be, let's say, $18, then $19, then $20, and so on and so forth, up until a certain amount. So you do want to, get in sooner rather than later to get in it to basically get that lowest price possible. And it's a huge deal. I remember I part of the business mastermind, and when I shared this kind of pricing structure with some people, they thought I was absolutely nuts, because just in the first year, if you consider everything that's inside the Optimize Self Arsenal, which originally I built to sell as separate courses, I put it all together. And then I said, okay, I'm also going to do weekly live trainings. And I'm going to also have the dojo, basically like a community and everything. Just in the first year, if you added all that up, there's $3,650 worth of value. And you can get started today for $17. I understand, it's insane. The reason I'm doing it at such a low level, and I'll probably top it off this year at $365. So even if you bought it at full price, which right now is nowhere close, but even if you bought it for $365, you're still going to get 10 times the value, okay? I can't tell you what the value would be at 17 because my math isn't that good. That's why I'm not the math guy or the math ninja. So yeah, I mean, the reason I want people to join the dojo is because what's inside the Optimize Self arsenal, and who's inside, the other ninjas and ninjettes as well as myself, there's much more context, there's much more sharing, there's an ongoing dialogue we can share with one another. You're more immersed in, you know, what's going on, as well as even an investment as little as, say, $17, you know, you got some skin in the game. I always tell people, you know, the worst advice is free advice. I'm always not hesitant, but I always know people who put money down on anything are going to take it more seriously. I know I do. You know, there's tons of free downloads I've gotten of guides and books and things, and they're sitting in my download folder waiting for me to read, and maybe they cost someone else 20, 30 bucks. It was free to me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get around to reading that, and I haven't. But then maybe some software, something I bought for $500, oh, bet your ass, I am reading that, I'm watching that, I'm using that. So also the payment thing, other than, you know, obviously putting food on the table for my wife and I and a roof over our head, which actually is a far, far less than you would think. I'll go into that in a whole nother episode. Kind of minimalistic living and such. Suffice it to say, we live pretty lean. So other than, yes, to want to make a living, which I think is fair and everyone should be able to do, the price is there for you and for people to join, is because I ask my friends and family too, if they're interested, I say, yeah, here it is, buy it. And I say that with all the love in my heart, is because I want them to take it seriously. I feel like I would be doing them a huge disservice if I said, hey, here's access to this thing for free. I would feel like a terrible friend, a terrible son, a terrible brother if I gave it to them for free, because they're gonna be like, oh, thanks, and they'll probably never look at it. When I know what's inside, maybe it's something I said, maybe it's something I created or shared in there, but maybe it's something that you as a new member will share in there that can change their life. I know there's something of value in there that's worth the $17, $18, $20, $365 and more. That's like, you know what? The payment you paying for entering it is just as much, if not more, for you than it is me. Okay? I'm sorry, I took a look at my notes there. So yeah, that's why I put together the Optimize Self Dojo in a nutshell. And it is always changing. I had someone actually in the dojo kind of go, okay, where do I find things, and what is this and everything? And it is set up pretty differently, quite differently than my last site, thepostureguy.com, and many other sites. And the reason being is because I think one of the biggest mistakes in the health, fitness, wellness industries is too much and confusion. You know, there's a lot of times I go to people that, you know, in health and fitness that I respect and I love the material, but I go to their websites and everybody's is this big, huge, like, oh, there's this post and this post and this post. And it's kind of like, what is it? Analysis, no, paralysis by analysis, or is it analysis by paralysis? I think it's paralysis by analysis. Anyways, you get what I'm saying. And there's just so much. And then it's like, oh, and then also get this course or my book. And it's like, and you might go, hey, I want to, man, I gotta even go through this stuff. And then they don't even take, most people don't even take action on the free stuff. And so, you know, if you look at OptimizedSelf.ninja, it's one page. Like I said, logo, video player, button to take the Optimized Self test, and then everything below is essentially, yeah, a sales page or a lead page to tell you, to educate you on what's included inside the Optimized Self dojo, with the key purpose of, there's 2 places where you can click and go, all right, get started. I want access to the dojo. And then it takes you to basically where you can purchase the membership page. So it's very minimalistic in its nature compared to, I would say, any health, fitness, and or wellness website, most other websites for that matter, but especially health, fitness, and wellness, completely different than anything out there. And it's on purpose. You know, I know it's kind of different and odd, and I'm even looking to make it less. You know, I may turn into just the Optimized Self.ninja YouTube channel, and I'm hosting the dojo from a private Facebook group. And again, all these things are not done by mistake. I'm really looking at how can I take away the most so there's the least distraction, so people can go, okay, watch this, read this, do this. And that's the key thing, is actually doing, is executing. And I know there's tons of room for improvement, and that's why the Optimized Self Arsenal that I refer to inside the Optimized Self Dojo, it's a shared Google Doc. And if you've never used a shared Google Doc, what it is, it's a live, organic, living, breathing, maybe not living or breathing, but it's a live page, meaning that I can go in at any time and change something. I don't have to send out a different link and say, here's a different version. It's changed on the fly. Not only that, but members of the dojo could go in and ask questions, highlight things, make suggestions. Hey, you know, this wasn't quite clear, or could you add this? Or is this part really necessary? And I can respond to them. And in that regard, I'm again looking to what can I take away? Because one of my favorite quotes, I'm gonna read this, excuse me, so I don't screw it up, but I forget who said it, but perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. All right. So I want to be able to take away as much distraction, as much minutia and just, well, crap, and make sure that only the most important stuff is there. And then have the show and have the live trainings where we can have a dialogue about, you know, what's the most important. So I understand it is a radically different change than, like I said, most health, fitness, and wellness websites, and the approach and the business model and the the pricing structure. All of it is different, and like I said, it's all on purpose. Whether it's the right way or perfect way, I definitely don't believe it's the perfect way, but it is the way that I believe, the better way. You know, and that's left to be seen. I guess we'll find out in a couple months or anything. But it's slowly but gradually been growing, and I'm happy, you know, with the growth, and I'm happy making these shows. And I've been going on and on enough about that. So, but I just wanted to share that with you. Like I said, I try to be as transparent as possible, and just wanted to share that with you. Last thing I guess I'll leave you with is, I always jokingly kind of say, is that I wish that for like a decade, all health, fitness, and wellness research could stop. And I know some people say, hey, but they're making great strides in this and that, cancer and that. And I totally agree. So it's kind of a joke. But the reason being is because I want research scientists, behavioral psychology, things like that, and be able to take what we know and communicate it better to people, so that and put it in a system or a framework so that they can actually do it. You know, every time you open up the webpage, oh, there's this new health thing, or this new fitness thing, and this new, and this new, and this new, and there's all this new stuff. Milk is good for you, milk is bad for you, milk is good for you, milk is bad for you, eggs are good for you, cholesterol, good and bad, that people never actually do. And so my hopes is with everything under the OptimizedSelf.ninja umbrella is, although I'm sure we will stumble across and create some new things, I don't necessarily want to create anything new. Instead, I want to take what is known and curate and communicate it better, so others can consistently and successfully execute on what we know. That's my hope, and that's why I'm structuring everything the way it is, and will continue to revise on a regular basis to kind of, you know, kind of, I don't even know the word I'm saying anymore. Basically, get more specific and more now to, like I said, eliminate as much as I can, so that there's only what is needed and no extra for you to have to go through. All right. Anyways, I think that covers it and then some. If you stuck around to the very end, thank you very much for hanging there with me. Those are just some things I had to get off my chest, had to share with you guys, and I hope you appreciate the transparency. All right, and I believe that is it. I guess as I go to the outro, like I said, I talked about minimizing, maybe even one day from a site, just do a YouTube channel and a Facebook. You know, with social media getting better and better, and there being less friction, like, hey, let me send you here, then let me send you there. Maybe, yeah, doing that someday. That said, you know, please, you know, connect with me not only on OptimizedSelf.ninja, but you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/OptimizedSelf.ninja. You can also find me at facebook.com/OptimizedSelf.ninja. You can find me at OptimizeSelf on Instagram and OptimizeNinja at OptimizeNinja on Twitter. All right, and however we interact, whether it's on social media, email, on the show, inside the dojo, I look forward to it. All right. Anyways, thank you for joining me today. You're awesome, and I look forward to seeing you inside the next episode. Until then, take care and keep moving.